Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to our monthly IDP IELTS Writing Workshop. My name is Lilette, and I will be your host and moderator for today's workshop with my other co-host and co-moderator. So let's begin. Let me introduce my co-host and co-moderators today. So we have Patrick from Philippines. Hi, Patrick. Would you like to say a few words, please?
Hi, Miss Lilith. So, kumusta and magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. So, ako nga pala si Patrick Gonzalez from the Philippines, and best wishes in taking your IELTS test, and keep going and always remember to try your best in whatever you do. Stay motivated.
Thank you. That's great. So the next one is we have Marisa from Indonesia. Hi, Marisa.
Halo Lilet, halo semuanya, halo everyone. Selamat malam untuk teman-teman khususnya dari Indonesia. Semoga session hari ini membantu teman-teman semua dalam mempersiapkan tes IELTS-nya. Good luck and hope for your best for your IELTS test. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marisa. And also, we have our colleague from Myanmar. Wei, would you like to say a few words from our test takers from your country, especially from your country?
Hello, Lilith. Hello, everyone. မင်္ဂလာပါဒီ IDP IELTS webinar ကနေကြိုဆိုပါတယ်အားလုံးကိုဒီ IELTS မှာဒီ webinar ကနေအများကြီး learn လုပ်လို့ရမယ်လို့မျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်ကိုလိုချင်တဲ့ band score တွေလည်းအများကြီးရရှိပါစေလို့ဆုတောင်းပေးပါရစေ So we wish you all the best for the exam, and also we wish you all the best for your future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. So it's good to hear everyone, speaking at their own languages. But don't worry, for those who do not have any representative, of course, you can always drop us a message via the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will be glad to assist you. And before I proceed further, I think we have one more representative from Thailand. And you, would you mind to please turn on your video? And then I just say, please say a few words for your test takers from Thailand.
Hi. Should I speak it in Thai or in English?
Yes, please.
So for all test takers in Thailand, welcome to this writing webinar. I'm sure it will be very useful for you. I joined it, I think, one time, but a long time ago, and I found it really useful. So I hope you guys can get a lot of tips and tricks and score really well after this session. Thank you.
All right. So do you want to have like greetings, good evening or good afternoon in Thai?
จริงๆก็สวัสดีทุกคนนะคะจากประเทศไทยที่เข้ามาจอยIDP วันนี้นะคะก็อาจารย์นะคะแจ็คกะลีนเขาก็มีความรู้มาแชร์เยอะแยะมากมายนะคะในส่วนของ writing tips ต่างๆก็หวังว่าทุกคนในวันนี้จะเก็บเอาความรู้นะคะไปใช้ในการสอบที่จะถึงนี้นะคะส่วนใครที่ยังไม่ได้จองสอบก็สามารถติดต่อทาง Ielts IDP มาได้เลยนะคะจะมีเจ้าหน้าที่ช่วยจองสอบให้ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
Well, thank you. Thank you. All right. So, okay. Our writing workshop is an official support for all of you who will take an IELTS test, be it academic or general training. So we aim actually to guide you in understanding the writing questions and provide ways to organize your answers in a more coherent manner. So before we get started, I would like to introduce our IELTS expert today. So she has been an IELTS teacher and trainer for more than a decade. Armed with an in-depth understanding of IELTS, she has helped a lot of people from across Asia to prepare well for it. So she enjoys sharing tips and strategies to help test takers reach the band score they need. So you guys will be helped by Jacqueline today. So as she will be guiding you through our IELTS writing skill, do stay with us until the end of the workshop, as you will be given a chance to personally ask your questions via our live Q&A. So please stay with us until the end of the session. And also, if you are joining us via Facebook Live, don't worry, you can always write your questions via the comment section, and we will surely ask that question to Jacqueline towards the end of the workshop. And Also, bonus for those who will be taking their computer-delivered IELTS test or who are thinking if they will take computer-delivered instead of paper-based, we will play like around 5 videos at the end of the session. So those are tutorial videos for computer-delivered IELTS test. So guys, I'd like you all to join me in welcoming back our IELTS expert, Jacqueline Fisher. So hi, Jacqueline. Good to see you again.
Hi, Lilette. Thank you so much for that introduction. And it's really lovely to be here this evening, or it's this evening where I am in Singapore. I'm not sure what time it is where you are, but it's very nice to be with you. Maybe to get started, you could let me know where you are in the chat. So I'm going to use the chat box to communicate. So if you have a question, feel free to put it there. So maybe you can just let me know where you're joining us from. Could be anywhere in the region, and sometimes we have people from all around the world. So I see people from Malaysia, Philippines, that's great, Indonesia, Australia. If you can catch my accent, I was born in Australia. I've lived overseas for a long time, but I am Australian by birth. Myanmar, Vietnam. Oh, it's lovely to have people here from around the region. So today we're really going to dig into the writing test and really look at in detail at that test. It's usually the one that people are most worried about. So we'll spend quite a bit of time going through it. And whether you're doing academic or general, we'll look at both of those tests. So I've been working with IELTS, as Lilette said, for quite a lot of years. So I'm hoping I'll be able to answer all your questions. And this session is for you, so feel free to ask your questions. And at the end, of course, we'll have Q&A session. So sometimes if I don't catch the question in the chat, one of my co-moderators, they're very experienced, they will probably be able to answer. Also, if you put your question in the Q&A box, they will more likely see it than me. I can really mostly only see the chat. Okay, great. So let's get started. So so please ask your questions because this is your session. And we will also have some polls as we go along, just for review and also to find out a bit about you. So maybe if the first poll is ready, it would be great if that could be right. Here we go. So I'd just like to find out a little bit about you, whether you've taken the test before, the minimum band score you're aiming for. Of course, we all want the highest, but what's the minimum that you actually need? And whether you're doing academic or general. And then if you're not sure yet, that's okay too. I just want to get a bit of an idea. So I'll just let that run for a while because we have lots of people joining us this evening, which is great. So nice to have so many people here. Yes, so generally, writing is the test that people are the most worried about. But if you prepare very systematically and really understand what you have to do, you should be able to do, well in the writing. Of course, it does take practice and it does take really understanding what you're supposed to do. So I hope that tonight you'll really get to know that. Okay, so let's end the poll and see. All right, it seems that most people have not taken the test before, but quite a few people have. So if you have taken it before and you have a specific question, feel free to ask. Now, in terms of band score, both 6 to 7 and 7 to 8, most people need those band scores. Okay, it's good to know. And academic, a little bit more. But don't worry, if you're doing general, we're going to talk about both. I also just would like to find out if you're going to do, at the moment, you're planning to take your IELTS on computer or paper-based. If you don't know, it's also fine. I'm just curious. So the content is exactly the same. It's just whether it's just the method that you're taking. Okay, so I see some people are considering computer. If you just let me know in the chat, that would be great. Okay, good. Okay, so I do see quite a lot of people thinking about the computer test. Yeah, it's the same content. It's just that doing it on a computer, you do the listening, reading, and writing all on the computer. Yeah, so you do need to be comfortable with typing and using a mouse and those kinds of things. So it really depends on you and your skills, which one you should do. All right, so let's get into the writing. Now, can you tell me what you know? How your writing test, how long is it and how many things do you have to do in the writing test? I think most of you should know this. It's 60 minutes and 2 tasks, 2 things you have to do. That's exactly right. Yes. So whether you're doing academic or general, it's still 2 tasks. So in academic, your task 1 is you're going to describe something using words. And then your task 2 is an essay. And then general, also task 2 is also an essay. So very similar, just different topics. Task 1, you're going to write a letter. So that's a bit unusual because we don't really write letters so much anymore. Yeah. So, and I see here someone said that the first task should be 20 minutes and the second is 40. That's right. We'll talk about the timing in a minute, but nobody tells you to change. So nobody says, okay, finish task 1, move to task 2. You have to manage that timing yourself. Yeah. And if you're doing it on computer, there's a clock on your screen. If it's paper-based, there'll definitely be a clock in the room, so you can manage your timing. All right. So here's just a little bit about the difference between computer and paper-based. So the main difference is when you do your test computer delivered, you get your results faster within 3 to 5 days. And usually there are more times in a week that you can do it. Yeah, but the test itself is exactly the same. So, yes, so before we get into looking at the different tasks, let's think about how you are going to be marked. So what are the examiners looking at? They only care about 4 things. That's what they look at with your writing. So does anyone know what those 4 things are? When they read, they're looking at 4 areas. Task achievement is definitely one of them. Yes. Coherence. Yes, that's right. I think you all know, quite expert. Lexical resource is another one. So what is lexical resource? So kind of fancy word for your vocabulary. So they're looking at the words that you use and your grammar. So they're the 4 things. So task achievement or response, cohesion and coherence, lexical resource, and your grammar. So let's just talk about these just for a little while, because when we talk about writing, we want to keep thinking about these 4. How can we give the examiner these? IELTS is very much, it's quite, what we would say is it's quite prescriptive. So you give the examiner what they want, they'll give you the score. It's like that. But the thing is, the other thing to remember is that you want to try to be natural and flexible. These are 2 words to always remember. So to get a good score, it has to sound natural and flexible. If you try to force these things in, but it doesn't sound natural, you can't get a good score. So a lot of that comes from practice. It also comes from reading a lot. So you get used to seeing English being used well. Okay, let's talk about these 4 a little bit more. The task achievement or response. What does that mean? Basically, it means, did you answer the question? Did you stay on the topic? Did you expand and give nice reasons and examples? Okay, so that's the first one. Second, cohesion and coherence. So this is all about your logic. Does it flow nicely? Is it clear? When the examiner reads it, do the sentences flow? So, is there some structure? Very important in IELTS. And the number one thing to remember is you must have paragraphs. Must. Okay, don't write one big chunk. You must have nice, clear, separate paragraphs. Also, linking words to make it flow. Yeah, so using linking words is important in the writing. Okay, next one, lexical resource, which is your vocabulary. So we're trying to use more interesting words, more unusual words. Also here for writing, it's also your spelling. Your spelling matters. And I have a bit of bad news. Even if you do your test on computer, there isn't a spell check. So we have to practice our spelling. Many of us don't have good spelling anymore because of autocorrect. So we have to practice. And then the last one here is grammar. So we see it has two parts, range and accuracy. So many of you want a band 7. You need to be about 70 to 75% correct. And then some of you need 8, so probably about 85% correct. Okay, but it's not just accuracy, it's also this thing called range. So this is using sentences that are more complex. So I often give this example in this session, so I'll do it again. So I can say, I like Singapore, it is hot. It's very hot right now. I don't know if anyone else is in Singapore. It's really hot weather. So those two sentences, I like Singapore, it is hot. Those are both correct sentences. But as you can see, they're very simple sentences. If you can combine them into one longer sentence, that's better for IELTS. So if I say, although I really like Singapore, it tends to be rather hot, that's a better, more impressive sentence, a complex sentence. Yeah, so we're aiming for these more complex sentences. So things like although, however, whereas, while, if, all of these will make more complex sentences. Okay, why am I going on about these 4 things so much? Because this is how they mark you. Each of these are marked out of 9. So 9 is perfect in IELTS. So if you want 7, 7 means good. You have to have 7 for answering the question. 7 for your structure and linkers and paragraphing, 7 for the vocab and 7 for the grammar. And then you'll get an overall 7. It's a numbers game. If you have 1, 6, so for example, you got a 6 here, which is, there are a few too many grammar mistakes, then you'd get 7, 7, 7, 6. That would give you a 6.5. Yeah, so it's really important to think about these 4 because this is how you get your score. And I'll keep referring to these during the session. Okay, so let's get into it. Enough about the marking. We're going to talk about general task 1 first. So I know quite a lot of you are doing academic. So for you, you can go grab a drink, grab a snack, and just kind of chill for maybe about 15 minutes or so. Of course, you're welcome to stay, but we're going to talk about general first. All right, so general people, can you remind me, what are we doing for our task 1? What are you writing? I know some of you are doing general. What are we doing? That's a letter, that's right. How many words and how long? So it's 150 words and we're spending 20 minutes maximum. Okay, task 1 is not worth as much. We want to get it done properly and move on. Yeah, don't want to waste too much time on task 1. Now, this is what it looks like when you get it. So it's always laid out this way. It tells you how long, how many words, and it tells you how to start. So here, dear sir or madam, please just follow that. Do not change it. Just follow what it says. Okay, now let's have a look at how it's structured. The topic is always arranged this way. There have been some problems with public transport in your area recently. Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. In your letter, describe the problems, explain how the problems are affecting the public, suggest what changes could be made. So there's a description, then there's a task, and then there are subtasks. So it's always laid out this way. Now, when you write the letter, you have 3 jobs. Okay, so you must do these 3 things. The first one is work out your tone. You get the tone from who you're writing to, how you start here, and who you're writing to. Who are you writing to? Manager of the public transport company. Do we know that person? No, we don't know them. So, we have to start dear sir or madam. So what's our tone going to be? I kind of told you up the top here, but in the real test that won't be there. So, you can say semi-formal. I prefer to think of it as like professional or, it's not too formal. It's not old-fashioned. It's still modern style. So maybe like semi-formal, professional. Yep, like the way you'd write an email to someone you don't know. That kind of tone. All right, so that's the first thing, our tone. Next question is, Why are we writing this? What is our overall purpose? Yeah, and you can find that in the top part here in the description. Usually we can say it with to. So why are we writing? There have been some problems. Why are we writing to do what? To share about the problems? Yeah, complain maybe, yeah. But it's more like to bring up or to share or draw attention to the problems, yeah. And now, so that's our second job. We look at the purpose and it's always up here at the top. Now, our third job is to look at the bullets. How many bullets are there? There are always 3. Now look at them carefully. Describe the problems. Okay, be careful if there's a plural. We can't just talk about one problem. We have to talk about more than one. Explain how the problems are affecting the public. Suggest about the changes that could be made. So 3 jobs in this letter. So once we do these 3 things, we can start writing. But remember, we need to look at the purpose. We need to look at the bullets and make sure we cover them, and the tone. Okay, so let's look at the model. All right, so remember we had to start dear sir or madam, so we just start this way. Now, can you see the purpose? Should be in the first paragraph. Can you see it? Usually we say it with to. Here, isn't it? I am writing to draw your attention to recent problems. Yeah, so that's the purpose in the first paragraph. It's nice to start like this with some background about who you are. You don't need to say your name because that's at the end. So you can just say who you are. I am a resident of Newtown. I'm writing to draw your attention to recent problems. Good. So that's the purpose in the first part of the letter. Next part, we will describe the first problem, which was, the first bullet point, which was the problems, more than one. Now, here we can use some nice linking words. Can you see the linkers that have been used? Briefly, that's the first one. The roadworks have led to long delays. So that's the first problem. What's the next linker? Furthermore. Yep, so it's really good to use linking words in the letter. New weekend bus timetable has dramatically reduced the frequency. Yeah, so notice the nice vocabulary, dramatically reduced. That sounds nice, doesn't it? You could just say reduced, but dramatically reduced sounds more impressive. But the secret with the letter is it must sound natural, like you would really send this letter in Canada or Australia or wherever you're going. Yeah, it should sound natural. So that is important. Okay, so we've done our first bullet point. Next bullet point is the effect. Notice how we're using a topic sentence to introduce the second bullet point. The effect of these actions becomes very obvious during peak hours on weekends and Saturday morning. So one effect, there's a high level of public concern. Public transport users find it takes 20 minutes. That's the first effect. Here's another linker as well. Shoppers travel by bus found it's not worth the trouble, leading to a drastic downturn. Okay, so 2 effects. Now here there's some nice vocabulary. Can you spot the nice phrases that are used? One in the second last line that's very nice, but it still sounds natural. Yeah? How about drastic downturn? It's quite nice, isn't it? Any other ones that sound a bit impressive? No? How about not worth the trouble? That's quite nice as well. All right, so the third bullet point, retail trade. Yes, that's better than just shops, right? Retail trade sounds more impressive. You're right, Christelle. Now, the third bullet point is suggestions, so more than one. So here's, may I suggest that buses be rerouted? Now, the second suggestion, we have a linker. I would also recommend. Yeah, I'm sure both of these steps would be warmly welcome. So that's the third bullet point. Then the last paragraph, usually we point to the future. We point to what's next. I look forward to hearing from you regarding my suggestions. And don't forget to sign off. So dear sir or madam, the correct sign off is yours faithfully, and then the name. Yeah, so usually the letter has 5 paragraphs like this. So if you forget to cover one of the bullet points, maybe you forgot to talk about the effects on the public. That's very bad. You will get band 4 under your task achievement. So make sure you cover the bullet points fully. Then your tone is very important, to keep the same tone through the whole letter. If your tone changes, like you put, dear Sora, madam, hey buddy, how's it going? Or something like that, then it's very weird. The tone is weird. Then you will get a band 5 for your task achievement. It has to sound real, like you would really send that letter. Yeah, so these are the steps. So we have to find the purpose, think about the tone, make sure you cover all the bullets, and then remember the letter writing conventions. So sign off, 5 paragraphs, the name at the bottom. Okay, so let's practice a little bit identifying the purpose. So if we had this in our topic, you want your friend to come to your partner's surprise birthday party, what would our purpose be if we say it with a to? To do what? Yeah, an invitation, that's right, to invite someone somewhere. Now, how about this one? What would be our purpose here? So it's really good to practice being able to state the purpose, the overall purpose. What's our purpose for this one? You recently stayed in a hotel and the service was most unsatisfactory. Feedback, to give feedback, to complain, to share your concerns. Exactly, express disappointment. Very good. Okay, now thinking about the tone, for that one about the party, inviting someone to a party, what do you think about this tone? I request the pleasure of your attendance at the birthday party that I will host for my longtime partner. I would very much appreciate it if you could keep this invitation a secret, as it will be a surprise party. So what do you think about that tone? It's a bit too formal for a friend, isn't it? For IELTS, for a friend, this is too formal. This might be okay for a very formal occasion. Yeah, but have a look at this version. Dear Anne, hope all is well. I'm not sure if you remember, but Danny's big birthday is around the corner. He's going to hit the big 40. He says he doesn't want to party, but that's too bad, because I'm hoping you'll be part of a super secret surprise bash I'm organizing for him. Yeah, can you feel the difference in the tone? This second one, it sounds like someone is talking, but you've just written it in full sentences. Sometimes your letter is informal. I know that's a bit weird because usually we wouldn't send a letter, would we? We'd send a WhatsApp. But if you have to do an informal letter, you must write in full sentences, but imagine that you're speaking. You notice here with the I'm, he's, this is fine for an informal letter. You can contract like this. All right, now how about this tone for the, about the hotel that the service wasn't good? What's weird about this tone? I'm very sorry about this, but I really do have to complain about the service I received at your hotel last week. What do you think about the tone? Contradicting? It's weird. Yeah, it's a bit weird because the person's too apologetic. The hotel was very bad, but you're apologizing. It sounds strange. So you can be more cold. So here, I'm writing to express my disappointment about the service I received. Can you see this second one's very detached and quite serious? And that's fine if you're complaining or you're upset about something. But don't go over the top. Don't be like, this is disgusting and terrible. You wouldn't really do that in real life, would you? The letter has to sound real. Okay, let's look at one more different type of topic. So you think you left your briefcase on the train. Write a letter. In the letter, describe what the briefcase looked like and what was in it. So that's the first thing. Describe what it looked like and what was in it, where you left it, and what you want the lost property office to do. So 3 things: what it looked like and what was in it. So notice here with the and, you've got to do both those things. What it looked like and what was in it, where you left it, and what you want the lost property office to do. Now, here's an example. Do you think that it has covered the 3 bullet points equally? This is important. You've got to have an equal amount for each of the 3 bullets. So have a read and let me know what you think. Are all the 3 bullet points covered equally? What it looked like and what was in it. So that's 1. Where you left it and what you want the lost property office to do. What do you think? Is it all equal? I mean, is there an equal amount of information for all the 3 bullets? Yes, great, Trisha. Yeah, the last bullet point doesn't have enough. You are totally right. So here it talks about what it looks like: black leather briefcase, silver buckle. And then what was in it, they put down here. I mean, you can split it like that if you want to. It's important because it's got your assignments and Coldplay novel and all that. And then here's where they left it. But it's my hope that the briefcase be returned. It's just one short line. You need a bit more there, maybe about, how to return it, who to contact. Each bullet point should be roughly equal. There's something to remember. Okay, now sometimes because you have to hit 150, sometimes people add in unnecessary information, things that are irrelevant and sound funny. So what's wrong with this one? Have a little look. What is irrelevant here? What do you think? Does it all sound like, yeah, the favorite book part is strange, and the article on your talking to your plants, that's irrelevant. Who cares? If you're really applying for a job, you wouldn't put that there. And probably this bit about favorite book is probably not necessary in the letter. Yeah. So just be careful not to add unnecessary information just because you're trying to hit the 150 words. All right. So let's have a quick look at an informal one. You're going on a holiday and would like to ask a friend to look after your house. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, explain the situation. Tell your friend what needs to be done while you're away. Arrange to meet your friend. Dear ... So here, when it's a ... we just make up a name. So the first thing, tone to our friend, dear ... Okay, so just make up a name. Of course, we won't say dear Miss Smith, right? Because it's our friend. Yeah, so dear Jane or dear Freddie or whatever. All right, now the next one, our purpose. Why are we writing? So the purpose is up here. Why are we writing? To do what? What do we want? Why? To ask for a favor. Yes, exactly. We're going to ask him for a favor. Exactly. And then our 3 bullets: explain, tell your friend what needs to be done, arrange. Okay, so let's have a look. So, dear Jane, cheers. Okay, so when it's signing off with a dear Jane with an informal letter, yeah, you can make sure your closing matches. So it could be cheers. If you don't like cheers, it's quite Australian or British. You could use bye for now, see you soon, lots of love. All those are fine. Best regards is a little bit formal for a friend. Remember that you're doing this for a Western, in a Western context. Like imagine that you're living in Canada or England. That is a bit formal in a Western context, best regards. If you think about your friend, would you say best regards? So don't use that one. Use like what I just said. Bye for now, see you soon, lots of love, cheers, see you. Yeah, those are all good. Hugs, yeah. Okay. All right, so the purpose. Remember, the purpose has to be in the first paragraph, but it will sound funny if you say, dear Jane, I am writing to ask you for a favor. Imagine if your friend wrote to you like that. You'd be like, whoa, man, that's too direct. Okay, so you have to go around. You have to build up to it so it sounds natural. So notice here, dear Jane, how is everything? I hope you're having a great week. Remember, it sounds like you're talking. As you know, I'm heading off to England next Monday for 3 glorious weeks. I'm wondering if you might be free to do me a huge favor while I'm away. See, there's the purpose, but very gentle. I'd be super grateful if you could look after the house. I really need to get away. Yeah? Can you see how we do the purpose in an informal letter? Not so blunt. There isn't really much to do. So you see that we do it in a very conversational way. We use these contractions. I'd, it'd. Yeah, we try to put in some interesting vocabulary. So things like, while you're at the house, it would be wonderful if you could check my plants and give them a drink if they're looking droopy or parched. Notice I've tried to use a while. Remember, while is more complicated. would you be free to meet me? I'm pretty sure you don't have any classes. We could grab a bite to eat. You can use some idioms in the informal letter. And then the last paragraph, you point to the future again, but in an informal way. Could you give me a call to let me know if this won't be too much of a hassle? It'll be great to see you. Can you see how conversational it is? Okay, great. So another thing to remember in your letter is your grammar and spelling. So let's just have a little check how good you are with your spelling and grammar. How many errors can you spot in this sentence? All the best acceptable for an informal letter. All the best. Yeah, I guess it's okay. It sounds a bit formal to me. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I don't think people use that very much though in a Western context. Yeah, can you correct the spelling? There, that's right. That's right. Accommodation, that's a tricky word. And there's one more, used to. Yeah, very good. So we've got to train ourselves to catch spelling and grammar because that's also what the examiner's looking at. How about this next one? Separate, this is a very hard word to spell. And maintenance, very good. Excellent, well done. Okay, so let's just sum up. So remember to do what we just did. Look for the tone, the bullets, and the purpose. Yeah, your 3 jobs. And check, is there a plural in the bullets, like problems? You have to talk about more than one problem. The purpose should be in the first paragraph. You usually have 5 paragraphs in your letter. Last paragraph, we look to the future. So remember to work out, are we formal or informal? And informal has to be really kind of friendly. Yeah. Try not to copy the topic. Use your own words. Just start the way they tell you. So dear sir or madam or dear ... No need to put an address. Just start with dear. And make sure the closing matches. Okay, so that is task 1, general. Do we have a poll for that one or not? Oh, there it is. Now let's see what you remember. It's a little quiz. I'll just let it run a little bit longer. Does anyone have any questions while we're letting that poll run? You can write them in the chat. And we'll be moving on to academic task 1 soon. So academic people, get ready. I'll just let this run for a little bit longer. Okay, I'm going to stop it now. Let's have a look. All right, so which 3 things do you have to think about? Yes, purpose, tone, and the 3 bullets, covering the 3 bullets. That's right. British spelling, you can use American or British. Both are fine. Long sentences are good if they're correct, but more important is to cover the 3 bullet points fully. Can you use lol? Yeah, no. You can't use texting language. You have to use full, like, proper English words. You can't use those kind of texting abbreviations like bye for now, BFN. You can't use that in the letter. I mean, you can, but you won't get a good score. If the letter doesn't sound realistic, it's okay as long as the vocab is impressive. Yes, good, it's false. Of course, it's good if you can use nice words like drastic downturn, but it has to sound real, like you would really write that in your letter. In an informal letter, it's okay if you use contractions. Yes, you can use don't, can't. Yep, you should use that. Very good. Okay, great. Now, general people, you can have a rest for maybe 15 minutes. Go get a drink, and we'll talk about academic task 1. But please come back, general people, because then we'll talk about the essay, which is important. All right. Oh, here's a question.
Jackie,
yes.
I think there's still number 5 for the poll.
Number 5, I missed. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I can't see. I stopped it.
Okay, I'll share it again.
Sorry, guys. In a more formal letter, you should use really formal phrases. Yeah, no. Remember that the letter should sound kind of professional, not overly formal, not very, very formal. Yeah, think more like when you write an email to someone you don't know. So think more like professional rather than very formal. Okay, thanks, Lilette. Sorry, too excited. Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
How do you know if you've written 150 words? Great question. So if you do computer delivered tests, there is a word count for you. So it counts the words. If you do paper-based, what you should do is count how many words you write on one line and then work out how many lines you need to do. Don't count the words in the test for paper-based because it's a waste of time. Okay, great. Thank you for reminding me that I missed part of the poll. Okay, now academic people, let's talk about academic task 1. Very different. It's not a letter. What are you doing? What are you doing and how long, how many words? You're describing something in words. It's like a report. Okay, so you're given something visual, like a graph, a chart, a table. You have to describe it in words. Yep, so 150 words and 20 minutes. Now, it's very important with this task 1 academic that you don't lose track of the time because you want to still have most of the time for your essay. This is not worth as much. With the academic task 1, it takes a little bit of time to learn how to do it. Yeah, so you just have to give yourself some time to learn. And then once you learn the technique, you will be faster. But initially, when you're learning, it might take you more than 20 minutes. And that's okay, as long as you can speed up as you get closer to the test. Yes, the minimum is 150 words. Of course, you can write more than 150 words. You can write, it's actually good, actually. If you can write up to 170 words, that's great. But minimum is 150. All right. So you might get something like this. This is what it might look like. If you have 2 things, don't worry. I'll show you how to do it. It's not difficult. Sometimes you get 1, sometimes you get 2. Okay, so first thing to do is to work out what we're looking at. The charts show the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad between 1985 and 1995 and Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. Yeah, so we're talking about tourists from Japan going overseas and going to Australia. Now, this part is always the same for every task 1. Summarize, select and report the main features, and compare. Okay, so this is always our job. Summarize what's going on, pull out the important things, and compare. So next, we have to spend a few minutes understanding and looking for the trends. Okay, so I always ask myself some questions to do this. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one. Japanese tourists traveling abroad. So first of all, if it's a graph like this, I look at the vertical axis. So number in millions. So be careful, it's not 2, it's 2 million, isn't it? So be careful with that. Okay, and then horizontal, we've got the years. The first question I ask myself is this talking about past, present, or future? It's usually past. Is this past? Yes, right? 1985 to 1995. Now, next question. So this one, Japanese tourists traveling abroad, I look at the main trend. Is it going up or is it going down? What's happening? It's going up, isn't it? I mean, there's some changes, but overall it's going up. That's right. Okay, good. So our main trend is it's increasing. Now we have to look in detail. So we start in we always look at the start, the end, and the peak. So here's the start. Where are we at the start? How many million? About 5 million. You can always say approximately, right? So approximately 5 million. Now at the end, where are we? Around about almost 16 million, aren't we? Yeah. Now, where's the peak? Which year is the peak for this graph? Which year is the peak? Yes, it's the same as the end, 1995. Now, as some people said, it changes. So we also need to point out where there's a change, anything interesting. So here it's all just increasing. How would we describe this increase? Is it dramatic? So it goes from 4 to about 12. So it's quite significant, isn't it? It's 3 times. But then, oh, look what's happening here. Yeah, so we want to highlight this change, wouldn't we? Something different. And then it's going up again. Okay, so we would want to highlight this year as well. Now let's look. Yeah, it trebled, that's right. Let's look at this other graph now. Australia's share. So how many went to Australia? So vertical, we've got percent. So be careful, it's not millions, it's percent. And again, year. Now, is this overall up or overall down? What would you say? What's the main trend? Fluctuating? Yeah, it's kind of fluctuating. It's kind of overall up with some fluctuations. You're right. So we start very low at only 2%. And then at the end, where are we? 1995, we're at about just maybe, I'm just under 6% of people. Yeah, maybe 5% of people going to Australia. Now, where's the peak? Which year is the peak here? Yes, so it's different. So that we must highlight the peak, which is 1994. Any other years that we want to highlight where there's something interesting going on? Yes, this part. We want to mention this, right? Because it changes. Okay, good. So do that with every graph. Work out what the main trends are and what stands out. And then we can write. So remember, we only have 20 minutes, so we have to do this fast. And there are 3 things we have to think about when we write. Of course, we have to write an introduction. We have to pull out all the interesting features, which we already just did, but now we have to write it. And we have to have this thing called an overview. So let's look at that. So introduction, the quickest way, remember we only have 20 minutes. The quickest way is to just paraphrase. So rewrite it using different words. Don't copy. If you copy, it's not your words. So rewrite it. So charts show, the chart and graph compare. Literally just change the words. The number of Japanese tourists, the number of Japanese who spent their holidays instead of traveling abroad, overseas. Yeah, so we've just rewritten the topic in our own words. That's for the introduction. Next is the overview. So the overview is 1 or 2 sentences, and it describes everything, but with no numbers, no data, just the main trends. So I'll read it to you. Overall, so usually we start the overview with overall or in general. Overall, despite the relatively small proportion of Japanese tourists coming to Australia, the Japanese tourist market corresponded closely with the growth in Japanese tourism overseas generally, with a trebling of both in the 10-year period. So there's that word trebling that someone used. So you can see there's no actual data in the overview, just describing generally what happened in both graphs. Okay, so now, next we need to describe in great detail using lots of data. So actually the examiner could actually read your description and draw it. So let's have a look how it's done. So first, when you have 2 things, just describe one and then describe the other one. That's the easiest way. While Australia was the destination for under 2%, this one first. In 1985, only about 5 million Japanese traveled abroad, after which the number increased steadily. Yeah. By 1990, the figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Here we are, apart from a slight drop. So we mentioned that the following year to approximately 10 million. The upward trend continued until the end of the period when numbers reached over 5 million. Okay, so we mentioned all the important data. And we said what it increased to. So we didn't just say it increased, it decreased. You must say what it increased to. Yeah, so that the examiner could actually draw it. Now we have one more job. Do you remember we have to compare? When you look at this paragraph here, can you spot any comparing language, comparing before and after? Words like in comparison, similarly, in contrast. Can you spot any while? Yes, while is down here. But what about this paragraph? Apart from, that's right, apart from and after which. So you must use this comparing language. You must use it. It's the third thing you have to do. So please remember to do that. Yeah. Okay, so now we have to describe this other one. While Australia was a destination for under 2% of Japanese tourists in 1985, this percentage had risen to over 6% by 1994, so the peak. The proportion grew consistently, apart from a slight fall in 1990. So we said what? 4.5 to 4. After reaching its 1994 peak, the percentage declined marginally to 6% in 1995. Okay, so again, we've described all the important numbers, the main trends. Now, you don't have to describe every year because that's very boring. And when it's the same trend, you don't have to keep describing each year, only where it changes. Also, please note the comparing language here, while, any other ones, apart from again. And one more thing I want to point out is the vocab. Can you see in this paragraph how we describe changes? So we said it grew, but then we said consistently. So we use another word to make it more interesting, an adverb here. And then a slight fall. You could say apart from, that's okay, but we want to make it more interesting and more precise. So we say a slight fall. Yeah, so using this kind of vocabulary is really important as well. Declined marginally, very nice. Okay, so this is not general training, this is academic task 1. Yeah, so if you're doing academic, this is what you'll be doing. All right, so let's look at the whole thing. Okay, so the chart and graph, so there's the introduction and there's the overview here. Then we describe the first graph and then we describe the second graph. And it has to be a minimum of 150 words, but if you write it more, that's okay. Just be careful about managing your time, only 20 minutes. Notice you do not need a conclusion. You can just finish, yeah, not for task 1. But if you want a conclusion, you can just summarize all the points again if you need to, but you don't have to have a conclusion. Okay, you with me? Let's see. All right, so sometimes you don't have a graph. Okay, sometimes you get like this, a chart. Now we're going to talk about the essay soon, okay? So because the writing test, task 1 is different for general and academic. So we have to talk about it separately. Yeah, so just hang on. We'll come to the essay in probably another 10, 5, 7 minutes maybe. Okay, so just chill. All right. Okay, so sometimes for academic task 1, we don't have a graph. We have something like this, a table. Now notice this part is exactly the same. Summarize, select and report, and compare. So same job. Now let's read what it's about. The table shows the percentage of students who attended different types of secondary schools between 2000 and 2009. Okay, so again, are we talking about the past? Yes, often we are, but just always check. Okay, so now let's understand. Let's do what we did before, analyze the trends. We're also looking for patterns. We're looking for the ones that are the same and the ones that are different so we can organize our writing. All right, so we've got 2000, 2005, 2009. Specialist schools, what happened, up or down? Did the percentage of students increase or decrease? Yeah, just a tiny bit though, right? Only 2%, just slightly. Grammar schools, what happened? Yeah, it decreased quite substantially. So you could say it decreased from 24% to 12%. What else? How else could we describe that with different words? It's good to use a range of vocabulary. Yes, it halved. Yeah. So volunteer schools, 52, 30. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it really tumbled, didn't it? It's less than half. And then community schools, 12, 32. Oh, yeah. So community schools really increased almost 5 times. Yeah. So when it comes to organizing our information, how will we do it? We'll talk about these 3 together because they all have the same trend. and we'll talk about the other one separately. So it's important to group your information like this. So let's have a look at the model. So again, just paraphrase the topic to start. Then we have our overview. So remember, no numbers. In general, we can see that specialist grammar and voluntary control schools experience declines, whereas, comparing word, remember we have to compare, community schools became the largest providers of secondary education. So no numbers, just the main trends. So now we describe in detail. This paragraph, we talk about the three that are the same. To begin, the proportion, so here's a linking word. Proportion in voluntary controlled schools fell from just over half, just over half to 20%. Similarly, remember our comparing word, the relative number of children in grammar schools, which was just over a quarter. So instead of just under a quarter, so just instead of saying 24, that's a nice way to say just under a quarter, dropped by half in the same period. As for the specialist schools, a relatively small percentage of pupils attending this type of school, which is 12%, also fell, though not significantly. Yeah, so just 2%. However, comparing word, while the other three types of schools declined in importance, the opposite was true in the case of community schools. In fact, while only a small minority of 12% were educated in these schools in 2000, this figure increased to well over half of pupils during the following 9 years. Yeah? So can you see how they've done it? Grouped all the three that are the same, and here's the one that's different, and mention all the important trends. Okay. And here's 176 words. So that's a nice length. An extra, 25 words is good if you can do that. Okay. Now, sometimes you get this. Now, don't panic if you get this. I actually think this type of academic task one is sometimes easier to do. Yeah, so this is what we call a process. And really all you do is you have to just describe everything step by step. It goes by steps. The challenge is to not, people tend to write and then. That's a bit boring. So different ways to say and then. Can you think of different ways? So you can have, first of all, what could you say for the next? After that, definitely following this, subsequently, Furthermore, it's more like and. Furthermore, we don't really use for a sequence though. Yeah, prior to, you could use that. Subsequently, the next step. Yeah, so try not to say and then. All right, so people always panic about how to write overview. Yeah, so we do the introduction the same, you just rewrite the topic. But the overview, how do you do that? It's easy. Just count how many steps roughly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can say there are approximately 7 steps in the manufacturing of bricks, beginning with digging up the clay and culminating or ending with delivering the bricks. And then you can say whether you think it's, a complex process or a simple process, something like that. Now, you need to talk about everything. So you need to spend a minute or two understanding what's going on. So let's have a quick look. So the digger, digging up the clay, goes through this metal grid. So you need to mention everything and then on a roller. Sand and water are added. So you notice I'm using the passive, are added, are delivered. We use a lot of passive in the process. Okay, then there's 2 options. Wire cutter to make bricks, or they go in a mold. Then the drying oven, 24 to 48 hours. How else could we say that in a more interesting way? 1 to 2 days, right? Try to say it the same thing in a different way. That's good. So then it goes in kiln, moderate, high, cooling chamber, again, 2 to 3 days, then packaged and delivered. Okay, so that's how you do it. It's really not that difficult to do a process. I think it's easier in some ways. Yeah, so here's a model which is in your handout. So I won't actually go through it all. Here they've put the overview at the end. That's also an option. Yeah, so overall, the brick making process comprises 7 steps. These steps involve different processes, namely refining and forming the raw clay, drying and firing bricks. Yeah, so just describing in general everything. Yeah, so you just go step by step. So you can have a look at that model in your notes. All right. So just some things to summarize. When we do task 1 academic, so you have to have at least 150. Of course, you can have more words. You must have that overview, either second or at the bottom. No numbers in the overview, just general trends. Remember to analyze and pull out the important information, the main trends, where it changes. Yeah, so you've got to have numbers, lots of numbers. So you can't just say it increased. It increased to what? From what? And remember to compare. Whereas, while, similarly, after that, apart from. And these often these comparing words also work as linkers to guide the reader through. And you must have paragraphs, so usually 3 or 4 paragraphs. Now, checking mistakes, we'll talk about that more with the essay. Some common things that people forget in the writing is if they forget the numbers. They just say it increased, it decreased. No, 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 from what to what? Yeah, you must have that. So we never interpret. You never say why. Oh, lots of tourists are coming to Australia because they like to swim with sharks or something. No. Just describe what you see. Never interpret. Okay, so comparing in the process, the comparing in the process comes from after that, subsequently. That's the comparing, because it's like before and after. Yeah, and you don't have to describe everything. Remember, that's the main. So when something is increasing, just where it started like that and where it changed. And you must have that overview, whether you have it at the second or at the end. Okay, great. So that is task 1 academic. I think we have a poll, or maybe not, do we? There we go. See what you remember. Now we'll talk about the essay next. Yeah, so that's everyone. And the essay is more important. So it's good we have a good amount of time to talk about the essay. And the essay is worth a lot more. The essay is worth 66%. So we want to do task 1 quickly and then move on to task 2. I'm just going to take a drink while you're doing that poll. Okay, great. I'll just let that run a little bit longer. Were you provided with extra paper? Yes. So when you do if you're doing computer delivered, you'll have extra scrap paper as well and a pencil to make some notes. If you're doing paper-based, you can use the question paper to write all over that if you want to. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll. Let's have a look. Which of these should you not include? Yes, interpretation. So never interpret, never say why. We do need an overview, we do need an introduction, and we have to pull out all the data. It's important that you cover every piece of data. Yeah, you don't have to. For a graph, you just look at the main, like where, so if it's increasing and then it changes, you have to talk about where it starts increasing and then where it changes. You don't have to mention everything. Should you have a conclusion? Yeah, that's optional. If you want a conclusion, you can, but you don't have to have a conclusion in academic task 1. Great. Okay, great. So, oops. Now, essay. Now, how many words are we writing for this essay? We have 40 minutes to do it. How many words? Minimum. Of course, you can write more, but minimum 250. That's right. Now, you don't bring any stationery into the test. You are provided with all the stationery. Yeah, so you can't take anything. There are very few things you can take into the test. Only a clear water bottle and maybe like a jacket if the air conditioning is cold. All right, so remind me what the examiner's looking at again. What are the 4 things? You have to keep remembering these 4. So for task 2, it's the same as task 1 almost. Yes, task achievement, but for the essay, we call it task response, but very similar. Cohesion and coherence, the vocab, and the grammar. Okay, so we're going to keep thinking about these 4 as we talk about the essay. Answering the question, your structure, your linking words, your paragraphs, must have paragraphs, your vocab, your grammar. All right, so when we get the essay topic, it's usually divided into 2 parts like this, the topic and the instructions or questions. So let's have a look. So I'll just read this to you. International tourism has brought enormous benefit to many places. At the same time, there is concern about its impact on local inhabitants and the environment. Do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? Okay, so we can see that this top part is our topic. It's like what we're talking about, international tourism, benefits and problems. And then these are our instructions or the question. Do the disadvantages outweigh the advantages? That's what we have to talk about. Are there more disadvantages or more advantages? Okay, so always analyze the question. Let's look at another one. In many countries, very few young people follow the news. So that's our topic. Very few young people follow the news. What do you think are the causes of this? What can you suggest to encourage young people to follow the news? Okay, so here we have 2 questions. What do you think are the causes, the reasons, and the suggestions that you have? So it's very important to follow this. Just answer these questions. That's your job. So we have to look at the topic and the questions very carefully. Now, in every IELTS essay, this is your job. No matter what your topic is, you have to give reasons and examples. Always reasons and examples. The examples can be from your own knowledge or your own experience. Okay, but remember, every essay, reasons and examples, and at least 250. Okay, so let's think about analyzing the question. We've already started doing this, but sometimes people don't answer the question properly. Either they panic, they don't read it, or they forget. So, okay, so this writing is not that great. It's quite simplistic. I'm not worried so much about that. What is the problem with this answer in terms of the question? So in many countries, very few young people follow the news. What do you think are the causes? What can you suggest to encourage more young people to follow the news? So we saw this before. What's wrong with this? It's not true that people don't read newspapers or watch the news on TV. In my country, most people spend time finding out about the news. Why do I say so? Because I see newspapers everywhere. If people don't buy newspapers, why does this publication continue? There are lots of problems with this in terms of the way it's written, but what about the actual content? Does this answer the question? What was the question? So the problem with this, apart from all the things that you pointed out, that we shouldn't have a contraction and it's weird to ask questions in the essay, did it ask you for your opinion here? Did it say up here in the instructions, what's your opinion? Do you agree? No, it didn't. So only do what it says. The people who do best in IELTS follow the instructions. They never just make up their own thing. One of the biggest problem with this, apart from all the other problems that you pointed out, is that it argues with the question. But the question didn't say, do you agree or disagree? It just tells you this is the case. So your job is not to argue with it. It's to say, what are the causes? Why? Okay, so be very careful. Make sure you follow the questions that are asked. Very important. Now, in IELTS, there are some main question types that come up over and over. The topics are different. Could be about the environment, could be about education, could be about sport, could be about cities, could be about technology. But the questions, the question types or the instructions are often the same. And these are some of the main ones. If you want to take a screenshot of this, I highly recommend this. I took this from a video actually from the IDP website, so it's also there. So these are some of the main question types. What extent do you agree or disagree? Discuss both views and give your own opinion. Why is this so? Give reasons and solutions. Advantages of international tourism outweigh the disadvantages. We just saw that one, right? Why is it so? What effect does it have on individual and society? Okay, now the whole interesting thing is that these instructions, these different types of questions, it helps you with your structure, your essay structure. And in IELTS, the essay structure is very important. You have to have nice, clear paragraphs. So for example, if we think about the one about advantages and disadvantages of tourism, so here's a good structure. You have your introduction and you give your position. Oh, there are more advantages or there are more disadvantages. Then you provide your advantages. And we're suggesting 3 different advantages. Then you provide the disadvantages, but there should be less, right? Because you said there were more advantages. And then the conclusion. Yeah, so that's a very nice structure. And so here there are some other structures for other types of essays. And we're going to talk about a few of these. But if you feel like taking a screenshot or a photograph of this slide, I would really recommend that. Christine, you've asked a question in the chat, but I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Maybe you can rephrase it. Okay, so let's move on and look at some of these different types. So one of these types that comes up a lot is the discussion. So discussion plus opinion. So here's a topic. Some people think that wild animals should not be kept in zoos. Others believe there are good reasons for having zoos. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Okay, so here's our topic. What I always do is I try to say it to myself in my own words so I understand. So what are we talking about? So we're saying, so some people think, so wild animals should be free, not in zoos, or maybe they should be somewhere else, like safari parks or something. Okay, that's one view. The other view is, oh no, zoos can be important. Okay, so I try to say it to myself in my own words so I understand. Now, these are our instructions. Okay, we're going to talk about the introduction soon, Sham, so just hold on. We're coming to that. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Okay, so in this essay, we have to discuss both the views and give our own opinion. So how many things do we have to do in this essay? 3, that's right, Ida. 3 things. So we have to talk about view 1. And view 1 is always introduced with some. So this is view 1. People should not keep animals in zoos. And then we have to talk about view 2. View 2 is usually introduced with others or other people. Yeah, so view 2 is no, zoos can be good. And then our own opinion. What do we actually think? And often maybe we have a mixture. We have a mixture of ideas. Yeah, we maybe think, sometimes zoos are okay and sometimes they're not. Or maybe you really disagree with zoos, whatever your opinion is. Okay, so it's very important to analyze the question like this. So once you've analyzed it, this will give you your structure. Yeah, so here's the topic. Discuss both views and give your opinion. So our introduction, we'll talk about what we put in the introduction. And then we should, if you want to, you could state your opinion in the introduction, but no reasons. So then we talk about the first view, wild animals should not be in zoos. Remember, we have to think of reasons and examples. Then we talk about the second view, good reasons for zoos, reasons and examples, usually 2 or 3 for each. Then we give our opinion again with reasons and examples, and then the conclusion. So this is a nice structure for this essay. So let's have a look at this one. This is a model. And this essay got a band 7. Yeah, so if you have a look at it, there's some nice things. So remember, band 7 means good. Perfect score would be 9. It's very hard to get a 9 in the writing because you have to be perfect. So 7 is a really good score in the writing. But this essay, if you read through it, you will spot some mistakes in terms of the grammar and the vocab and some of the, it's not fully expanded like a band 8 would be, but it's a good response to the essay. And one of the good things about it is the structure. As we just talked about, here's the introduction, view 1, although actually they talked about view 2 first. There are many good reasons for having zoos. So it's a really good idea to start with a topic sentence. Tell the examiner what this paragraph is about. There are many good reasons for having zoos. And then we give the reasons. Most importantly, they attract tourists and make money. So as you can see, the sentences are a little bit short. That's why it's a 7 rather than an 8. Okay, so first they're talking about why zoos are good. That's view 2, actually. Then they talk about view 1. However, many people feel wild animals should be free. So this is the other view. See a nice linker here. And then a person's opinion with reasons, and then the conclusion. So a very nice, clear structure. So we'll come back and look at this a bit more here. So thinking now about our second area, cohesion and coherence. This essay got a 7 because it has some nice linking words to make it flow. So at present, and most importantly, for example, less, therefore, also, however, yeah. I also wanted to show you this. So I believe wild creatures should not be kept in zoos and there should be alternative ways to see them. What are we talking about with this them? What is them? Yes, the wild creatures or the animals. So you could repeat. You could say alternative ways to see wild animals. But that's a bit like repeating the same thing. So when you use a pronoun like this, it's good. It's called reference. And that's a good thing to do. The examiners like that when you do reference. Okay, so you can see the linking words here help to make this a 7. All right, so sometimes we have different type of essay like this, opinion essay. So let's again have a look. So our topic is, some people say that living in a house is much better than living in an apartment. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So this is another common type. And here they are asking us for our opinion, right? So I always say it in my own words, living in a house. Okay, so better to live in a house or an apartment. So the first thing we do with this essay is get our position. Do we think it, how much do we agree? This word extent, how much do we agree? Do we mostly agree, mostly disagree, partially disagree? What do you think? Let me know in the chat. You think it's better living in a house or an apartment? So this statement says living in a house is better. So do you mostly agree or mostly disagree? So some people agree, partially agree, mostly agree. Okay, a lot of people agree to some extent. House, yep. Okay, so I see a lot of agreement. Good. So the first thing is you have to get your position. Okay. Now we think about our structure. Okay, so So we have our introduction, and I will talk about what goes in the introduction, don't worry. And we put our position. In this type of opinion essay, we have to put our position, like you agree, like you mostly agree, a lot of you said. Then you argue your position. You give your reasons and examples why you agree. Then I think it's good to think about the other side, at least consider at least one reason and example why apartment might be better, and then your conclusion. And I'll talk about what goes in the conclusion. So this is a nice, clear structure. Now, the next step before we write, we actually have to brainstorm very quickly. If you quickly brainstorm, maybe in about 2 minutes, it will make a much better essay because your reasons, remember you have to give reasons and examples, your reasons will be clear. So let's try it now. A lot of you said that you agree that living in a house is better. Why? What are your reasons? Give me some reasons in the chat. Why is it better to live in a house? It's cheaper. That's interesting. In Singapore, it's definitely not cheaper to live in a house. But I guess in some countries it's cheaper. That's fine. So you would have to give an example. Bigger space, yes, more spacious, more privacy, better ventilation. These are all great reasons. No rules, yep. More control over it, yes. You have a neighborhood, that's a very nice reason. It's more comfortable, yep, all great reasons, fantastic. Now, if you're going to consider the other side, what could be a couple of things that might be better about living in an apartment? What might be better? Security, yep. It might be cheaper in some countries to live in an apartment, yes. Facilities like a pool, if you live in a condo, that's right. Maybe easy to clean, yeah, more convenient. Yep, all these are fantastic. So if you take a few minutes to brainstorm like this and actually think of your reasons, your essay will be much stronger. Okay, good. So let's have a look at another one, another model. This one is a much higher level, not much higher level. Maybe this is like an 8, maybe even 8.5 level. So you see how it's different from that band 7 we looked at before. Okay, so let's have a look at the introduction. Everyone wants to live in comfort. Some people find independent houses more convenient, while others prefer modern day apartments. I agree that living in an apartment is more advantageous than living in the house. Okay, so this person thinks that living in an apartment is better. And for their introduction, can you see that they kind of paraphrased the topic or kind of said their own, just a general statement about the topic? So that's really the quickest way to do the introduction. Okay, so now this person said actually they think apartments are better. So now we need their reasons. To start with, we're moving towards a culture of nuclear families where more adults work. So that's their first reason. It's much, oh no, it's down. So this is a background. Life is more stressful. It's much easier to manage an apartment. Yeah, some of you said that. And here's an example. Remember, you have to give reasons and examples. For instance, most apartments have housekeeping facilities that take care of all the cleaning and maintenance. Okay, so that's one reason. Next reason, we're using a linking word for the next reason. Additionally, apartments are usually gated communities so that they are a lot more secure. To exemplify, so here's an example again. Most apartments would have access cards, so they're giving their example. And furthermore, here's a third reason why they think apartments are better. Common facilities, that's what a lot of you said too. Like swimming pool, one does not have to travel. So here they didn't say for example, but they expanded and explained. So sometimes you don't actually have to say for example, but you can just give more information about what you need. Okay, then this person is considering the other side, just one, like looking a little bit at the other side. However, so nice linking word, living in an independent house does have its own advantages. They're spacious, can use and modify space. Yeah? And then to conclude, pros and cons, how I believe apartments satisfy the needs of our modern lifestyle. So you just kind of sum up everything briefly again. Can I use the word? William, I'm not sure of your question. Yeah, okay, so this is a higher level essay, as you can see, and it's very clearly answering the question with very clear paragraphs. Okay, now let's look at this one. One more. Every year, thousands of students go overseas to study, although many benefit, others go home disappointed. What are the benefits and drawbacks of studying in another country? So this is a discussion essay. Yeah, so how many things do we have to talk about in this essay? Two, yes, two. The benefits and the drawbacks. This essay, I think you see it's a little bit more straightforward. This is a general essay. The other one that we looked at, particularly one about what extent do you agree and disagree, that tends to be more academic. Or can you use but as the first word in the paragraph? I wouldn't do that for the IELTS essay. But nowadays you can use but to start a sentence, but it's a bit more informal. If you want to start like contradicting, I would use however or on the other hand. but is a bit informal for an essay. Although I know it's not wrong these days, but just to play safe, I wouldn't. Okay. So let's look. Every year, thousands of students go overseas to study. Although many benefit, others go home disappointed. So that's what we're talking about, students going overseas to study. So let's have a look at our structure. This is quite a straightforward one. So we have the introduction, we have the benefits, reasons and examples. So probably if we can think of 3, drawbacks, reasons and examples, and then the conclusion. So quite a straightforward essay. Now let's brainstorm again. So always try to do this brainstorming. This is an example of a two-way question. This is an example of a discussion question. Two-way question, I think what you mean is when there are 2 questions. Remember the one about the news? What are the causes of people not reading news? What are the suggestions? There's like 2 questions you have to look at. This one here is like a discussion. Talk about the benefits and drawbacks. Okay, so what are the benefits? Can you brainstorm and think of some benefits of studying in another country? Expand your network, yep, more experience, maybe better education, a new culture, yep, broaden horizons, different education system, yep, more cultural exposure, yes, all very good. Meeting new people, yep, stimulation, yep, for sure. Networking maybe. Okay, great. Now, what about the drawbacks? So try to always think of 3 benefits, 3 drawbacks. Far from your family, homesick, expensive, yes. Culture shock for sure. Yep, all these are great. Racism sometimes, exactly. All of that is great. Okay, let's see. I just thought of some similar ones. Benefits, exposure, more independence, networking, culture shock, discrimination. I thought of distractions. You know, sometimes people go overseas, no parents, woohoo, time to party. Maybe not in COVID, but in the past. Okay, so now we have to think about the paragraphs. Okay, so introduction, what we will do is introduce the topic. So whether you paraphrase, rewrite the topic, or say a general statement about the topic. In this essay, you don't have to give your position because it's not an opinion, but you will, so you can just introduce the topic. Then the body. So each paragraph, you have to have a topic sentence, reasons, and examples. And then conclusion, you can just summarize everything in one paragraph. Okay, so here's an example of how you could do the introduction. So one way is you just literally paraphrase, you change the words. So every year, annually, thousands of students, a vast number of students, go overseas, venture abroad to study, to pursue their studies. Okay, so this is fine. It's okay. It's the fastest way, but it's maybe a little bit boring. Another way you can do it, so you can say just a general statement about the topic. So like this. These days, it seems that almost every second new graduate attain their qualification abroad. Many of these students find the study experience rewarding, but some are less satisfied. Okay, so you can say something general about the topic. Yeah. All right, so now our body, it's the clearest way, so you want to be clear, right, for cohesion and coherence, is to say what the paragraph is about, a topic sentence, then give your reasons and give your examples. Okay, so this would be the next paragraph, second paragraph. So remember, we have to talk about the benefits first. So studying abroad offers students a number of benefits. So immediately the examiner knows, oh, this paragraph is about benefits. Okay, then I introduce my first benefit with a linking word. Firstly, it facilitates exposure to new and diverse cultures. Remember my brainstorm? I had exposure to new cultures. That's my first idea. Students can not only immerse themselves in the lifestyle traditions of their host country, but may also have the opportunity to discover the worldviews and cultural practices of fellow students across the globe. So here I didn't say, for example, but I just explained what I mean. So you can do that sometimes. Now here's my next reason. In addition, being alone in an unfamiliar place and having to solve issues of day-to-day living can foster a strong sense of resilience and independence. For example, negotiating rent, transport, and food will teach a young person valuable life skills. So here's an example. Can you see that the example is quite short? What you should not do is tell a long story about your life. Like, oh, when I went overseas to study, at first I was very lonely. I didn't have any friends and I didn't know what to do. And I would sit at home by myself. And then later on, I figured out how to do everything. It's too long, okay? Your example just has to illustrate your reason. You can use it from your own experience, but it has to be brief. You can use we and I, first and first person, singular and plural. You can use that in the essay. Yes, it's not such a formal essay. But if you don't want to, that's also fine. Okay, so can you see the example just illustrates the reason? So here I've just given 2 reasons because there's a lot of words. But you can also give 3 reasons. Yep. Now we're talking about drawbacks. Conversely, there can be several drawbacks to venturing abroad. It's a topic sentence. One of these could be confronting sense of culture shock. And for example, here's an example of the culture shock. Further to this, so another reason, a very dynamic environment in a foreign location might lead to a range of distractions for impressionable student, and then expanding on what that means. Yeah. And then the conclusion, opting to complete tertiary studies can offer increased exposure. So basically summarizing all the reasons again. Can offer increased exposure to other cultures and opportunities to develop a greater sense of independence. However, it cannot be denied that overseas study can also lead to culture shock and may offer main distractions. Each person needs to consider their own temperament. So just kind of summarizing everything again. Okay. So that's kind of how to structure it. Now let's think a little bit about the other 2. So we've looked at task response, analyzing the question and brainstorming and thinking of reasons and examples. And then we thought about our structure, nice clear paragraphs and a topic sentence. Now let's think about your vocab. So with the vocab for the essay, you want to be more formal. Okay, it's not informal writing. It's more like when you write an essay for university or school. And again, spelling matters. We don't want slang like hubby or baby or anything like that. Okay, and collocation. So this is another thing to think about. Another thing the examiner looks at are words that go together nicely. So if we come back, remember this essay that was band 7? It has some nice vocabulary and it has some nice collocation, which are words that go together. So tourist attraction sounds good in English. Alternative ways, educational importance, natural habitat. All of those sound nice in English. There are also a few more unusual words here. Endangered, precious, underestimate. So all of these words make it a 7. Yeah. Not quite enough to be an 8. And there are some spelling mistakes and things like that which keep it at 7. But some good vocabulary there. Okay, now the other thing to think about is your grammar. Remember the complex sentences. So you could have something like this. Global warming is a phenomenon. It is caused by increased carbon emissions. So that's okay, 2 sentences. But what if you combine them into one? It's better. Global warming is a phenomenon which is caused by increased carbon emissions. Yeah, so then it's a longer sentence with parts. So try to do this more. Okay, so another thing you need to train yourself to do is spot mistakes. So have a look at this band 7 again. See if you can spot some of the grammar or spelling mistakes. If you spot one, tell me which paragraph it's in. So paragraph 1, line 2, or something like that. Yeah, there are quite a few grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes, and some of the grammar mistakes are common things that a lot of people make. Visitors get chance. Yes. So what's wrong there? Visitors get a chance or get the chance. There in paragraph 4, the spelling mistake. Yes, very good catch. Paragraph 3, believe. Paragraph 1, is that spelling? Yes, spelling mistake again. Paragraph 1. See if you can spot any grammar mistakes. Visitors, yep, spelling mistakes. There are quite a few spelling mistakes. There, they is. Good catch. They is. Yeah, that's a grammar mistake, isn't it? Plural for panda, tiger. Like Chinese panda. Okay, yeah. You could put a plural there, or you could use an article like the Chinese panda or Indian tiger. Then it's okay. Paragraph 4, governments. Yes, good spotting. You guys are rad. Okay, so I'm just going to show you some of the common grammar mistakes. These are things that a lot of people make. What I suggest you do is do an essay. I mean, if your grammar is fantastic, then don't worry about this. But if your grammar is not the best, write an essay for practice, then give it to someone who has really good grammar in English. Get them to correct it, the grammar. Then you will find out what your habits are. And you may have some of these habits. So this is one of the habits. The world, all over the world, the city, a chance, the. So people often forget and the in English because other languages don't have them. Yeah, so this is a common mistake. Another one of these little words, in, on, at, to, for. People often get those wrong or forget them. So wild animals in their country, not at their country. At is for a point. In is for a country. Yeah, plural. You're right. Someone said plural. Stories. Yeah, we frequently see news stories, not just one story, but many stories. Yeah. Yeah, you could put plurals here, it's fine. That would make it correct as well. But there's not only one way to do things always. Yeah, and there are spelling errors throughout, I know, but that's under vocab. Spelling errors come under vocabulary. Because they is that what someone spotted, right? They are. This is called subject and verb agreement. Very important in English. So these are common grammar mistakes that people tend to make. Just to summarize, if you're doing paper-based tests, you can write all over your question paper. Yeah, you can scribble all over it, do a plan and all that. Yeah, no worries. If you need more paper for paper-based, just ask for another sheet. You don't have to squish it into one. They'll give you extra paper. Yeah, but you don't have time to write a rough one and then write a good one. No time. You can do a plan, like your structure, and you can brainstorm, but then you just have to start writing. It's only 40 minutes. Careful not to copy the task. You change it. Use your own words. Remember not to not to give, like, your reasons should be quite specific, but they shouldn't be too detailed either. Yeah, and remember not to tell long stories. It's quite a short essay. Your examples should just illustrate your reason briefly. Please do what we've been doing, analyzing the question, working out what your job is, then working out the structure. Yeah, so remember we're writing in an essay style. You must use full sentences. If you run out of time, do not use bullet points or you will lose marks. It's the same in the letter. Don't use any bullet points, full sentences. Yep. Okay, so just remember always, did you answer all the parts? Did you follow the instructions? Did you have nice clear paragraphs, usually 4 or 5? Did you use linking words, spelling and vocab? The complex sentences, so if, while, whereas, although, and your punctuation. So you need to be careful with your full stops, commas, and that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah, so good. There's a question about bullet points. No bullet points in task 1 or task 2. You must, for IELTS, you have to write in full sentences. Yeah, I know it seems a bit old-fashioned, but that's how it is. Okay, so just to summarize some advice for task 2. So remember, the essay is worth 66%. We want to get task 1 done and then move on to task 2. You can do task 2 first if you prefer, but really be careful with the time, so you don't run out of time for task 1. So analyze the question, work out what you have to do. What type of essay is it? Opinion, discussion, or discussion and opinion, or multi-part question? So you have to have paragraphs, usually 4 or 5. Yeah, thinking about complex sentences and unusual vocabulary. Analyzing the task, brainstorming, thinking about your structure. Yeah, no bullet. If you can leave like 2 minutes at the end to go through and look for your common mistakes. Are they and the, plurals, subject, verb agreement, that kind of thing. Okay, now if you do your IELTS with IDP, once you register, you can have access to a lot of materials from Ielts Essentials. Oh, I forgot about my review. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, so just a quick review of task 2. Yeah, but while you're doing that, there are lots of support materials from Ielts Essentials. So I'll talk about that in just a second. Let that run. Just let it go for a few more seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Let's see, you have to write exactly 250 words. No, minimum of 250. But if you can write a bit more, like 270, that's actually very good. And you can write, 300, 350. Just be careful with the time. Manage your time. Should you count each word? Yeah. Okay, for computer delivered, there's the word count. For paper-based, don't waste time doing that. Instead, count how many words you write on one line. And maybe you do 10 words on one line usually. Then work out how many lines. So you'll have to do at least 25 lines, right? Maybe add a few more to be safe. So maybe work out like 28 lines. Okay, now, if you run out of time, it's fine if you write in point form or notes. No, if you run out of time, you must write in full sentences. Yeah, always full sentences. Good. Okay, so yes, so here are some resources from Ielts Essentials. Once you register to do the test with IDP, you can access a lot of these, including Facebook page, practice tests, tips from experts on the blog, and videos as well. So lots of materials to support you and help you when you prepare. Scrap paper is provided for the computer test. That's right. Okay, great. So we have time for questions now. So I might stop my share and let's see how we want to do the questions. Should I look at the questions in the Q&A first or
Hi, Jackie. Yes,
Hi.
please.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, great. So let me have a look. Is there any particular format to write task 1 and task 2? Well, I think we've been talking about the structure. I'm not sure if that's what you mean, the structure. Yeah, so task, it depends. Is it academic or general? So academic is usually like the way that I said, introduction, the overview, and then describe in detail. That's academic task 1. The letter is usually like the purpose, bullet point 1, 2, 3, point to the future, and then sign off. And then the essay, usually we have 4 or 5 paragraphs. It depends on your instruction, right? But usually there's the introduction, there are 2 or 3 body paragraphs, and the conclusion. Any tips on how to identify and limit the most significant information on the data? I feel like everything is important. Okay, that's a great question. So you look for the main trends. So if it's a graph, you look where it changes like we did just now. So if it's increasing, and you don't have to mention every point, just where it changes. If it's like a table, so you also just mention like the main trends. if it keeps going down, you don't need to mention each year, just where it starts and where it ends. Remember I said the start, the end, the peak, and then also any changes. They're the main things. Task 1 academic is an intro overview, key features, or intro key features overview. Now, either of those ways are fine, whatever you prefer. Yeah, whatever you like. I usually put my overview second because I know the examiner is looking for it. So I just put it near the top because then I know they'll get it. But it's up to you. How can I decide the most important point from the data? Yeah. So task 1 academic, you need to talk about the main trends. Okay. So you do need to talk about most things. You just don't need to talk about every single detail. So just where it changes, that would be the main trends. And remember we looked at the table with the 3 points? Because it kept going down, you didn't need to talk about every point. Which could be a good linking word to start my own opinion. Is it okay to write personally? I'm absolutely convinced that zoos. Yeah, that's fine. You can say that. Yep. But you don't really need to say, yeah, you could say that. That's really okay. Or you could say, in my opinion, personally. Yeah, both of those are totally fine. I have been taught on how to discuss both view and opinion in writing. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand this question. I've been taught on how to discuss both view and opinion in writing, that with each end of viewing paragraph, it is recommended to put counter argument. Oh, I see. So you've been taught to put view 1, view 2 together. View 1, you could do it that way. There's no one way. I just think for me, whatever is clearer for the examiner. So it just seems clearer to me to talk about view 1 altogether, talk about view 2 altogether, talk about your opinion. It's just clearer. Remember, the examiners are marking many, many essays. You want them to be able to find the information quickly. But if you prefer to do it that way, it's not wrong, as long as it's clear what you're doing. I have read in some IELTS books that we'd better use would, could, can, will. Okay, so would and could are what we call modal verbs, and because that's considered more complex grammar, it's also like not so blunt. So yeah, it is good to use modal verbs. It's more considered more complex. So could, would, might, may. Yep. Yeah, definitely you can use that. It is good to use that. Can we use the reduced adverb adjective clause form of grammar? For example, instead of using the people who, oh dear, so that one, the people, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you mean, Con. Can you type it again and give me the example is not complete. So perhaps you could write that one again. Does in fact mean to contradict the previous ideas? In fact is kind of like emphasis. But yeah, you can use it to contradict. I'd have to see the whole sentence. Like, because we use it to emphasize that, Singapore tends to be very hot. In fact, it's one of the hottest countries in the world. So it's kind of like emphasis to me. Yeah. If I want to add something, for example, a sentence to my essay, can I use a tick and write what I want to add at the end? You can, if you want to add a sentence, but you can't fit it in, you can draw like an arrow to the bottom. If you're doing paper-based, yeah, that's fine. That's okay. Yep. Do you have a suggestion on being first or third person point of view? It doesn't matter. For the IELTS essay, you can use I believe, I think, or you can use, people argue that, whatever is more comfortable for you. Yep, both are fine. It's not like one is better than the other. It's more important to have good ideas, good reasons, and good examples. Can we reference the chart by saying based on the chart? Yeah, you can do that for the overview. Yep. Can you use contractions in task 2? No. In task 2, do not use contractions like don't, isn't, because it's formal writing. Also, you get 2 words. If you say do not, that's 2 words. If you use don't, that's only 1 word. So in terms of word count, it's better to not contract. Can I use some sentence like, it is logically accepted, blah, blah? Please don't use the blah, blah. You can say it is logically accepted that. Yeah, if you want to use that kind of more academic, impersonal, passive kind of language, yeah, you can. But try not to mix up your tone. So you have that in one sentence and then you have a very informal sentence. If you're going to write like that, write the whole essay like that. Can I use I and we? Yes, you can. You can use I and we in task 2. Okay. Yeah, I think I've answered that one about particular format. Yep.
Yeah, thank you
Great.
so much, Jackie. So before we proceed with the live Q&A, I just have some pending, I think, reminder here, because these are the common questions that we've encountered towards the end of the session, or even during the beginning of the call of the session. I'm sorry. So first one is, do we need to bring pen and paper in computer delivered tests? No. Test center will provide pencil, and actually it's not a paper, but it's the login details wherein you can write. You can use a scratch paper. Yep. So that's for computer delivered. For paper-based, it depends on the country. I think a majority of the country in Southeast Asia, we do provide pencil for the test. I'm not sure. I think in Philippines, there are some requirements. Patrick, would you like to verify that information? Patrick, all right.
Hi, Ms. Lilette. Yes, in the Philippines, we provide pencils, but the test takers are also encouraged to bring their pencils.
All right. Thank you so much. And then, can we rewatch the session later? Yes, definitely. As I mentioned earlier, this session is being streamed live on Facebook right now. And within 24 hours after this event, you will receive an email from us, and then all the links where you can find the session in Facebook. So this is currently live across 7 or 9 Facebook pages in Southeast Asia. And then, things allowed to bring during the test. You are only allowed to bring your identification. When we say identification, that's a valid passport. That means not expired. And then it could be a local national ID. Yep. And then you can bring a light jacket and a water bottle, clear water bottle. That's all. Yeah. And then extra paper. Yeah, I think I've already mentioned that earlier. Toilet break. Okay. This is very important. For listening tests, there's no toilet break. No toilet break allowed. And then where else you can go for toilet break? During the reading and the writing test. When we say during, that means when the invigilator or the test day supervisor announce you may now begin your reading test, then that's the only time you can go for toilet break. No toilet break while the instructions are being given, or during the last 10 minutes of the test, or while papers are being collected for the paper base. Okay, and then incorrect spelling. Okay, during the instruction for the listening, reading, and writing, you will hear the script reader saying spelling is important. Yeah, so please watch out for that, as Jackie shared earlier. All right, so now we can proceed on our live Q&A. So just to do that, please raise your hand, and then we will ask you to unmute your mic, and we will allow you to talk. Okay, so we have one here, Adrian Punawan.
Yes.
All right. Hi.
Hi.
Yes, your question, please.
I have no questions about this.
Oh, all right. Because I saw you raise your hand. Okay, so let me just lower your hand. I think we can have Maria Aranza Peralta. Hi, Maria.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. I would just like to ask about the break. Would there be a break after reading, writing, and listening exam before taking the speaking test?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now can we have Mai Tien?
Okay, thank you. My question is that, so as you can see that it is pretty difficult for us to come up with, fully developed and reasonable and solid, it has solid idea that could be convincing. It's really hard to demonstrate our ideas solidly and convincingly in the IELTS test. So would you recommend, is there any method for us to make our response be well developed and solid enough? Thank you.
Okay, great. That's a great question. Thank you, Mai. Yeah, it depends also what band score you need. Okay, so let's just assume you need a band 7, which is good. So remember that one that we looked at about zoos? So did you see how that essay was written? You don't have to write like a university professor to get a band 7. Yeah, so you just have to have, and when I was asking you to brainstorm ideas, the ideas that you were coming up with were fine. It's just then learning how to take those ideas and express them in good, clear sentences. So of course that takes time. So how do you do that? It's like any skill, it takes time to build that up. But listening to the way that you were just speaking to then and asking the question, I think you could, if you need a band 7, it seems like from your speaking, that's very much within reach for you. And speaking and writing are very similar, actually. So the first thing to do is to look at models. Look at how they're structured. Look at what is considered good. The ones I've been showing you tonight are the way that IELTS like you to write. And then practice writing your sentences in that way. Yeah, and then so that's a skill that you need to build up. So there are different aspects. So first is thinking of your ideas, but a lot of you are already able to do that. Then it's turning those ideas into good, clear sentences. Yeah, so by doing that, there are lots of books that can help you with how to structure your writing, but also looking at model essays is very good as well. And then it's learning to expand your vocabulary. So that one also, it takes time, but a lot of that comes from reading widely and being interested in words. And then it's learning, once you get more comfortable with writing the sentences in this correct way, then it's a matter of getting faster and speeding up. So it's not instant coffee. I can't tell you in one webinar these tips and then, well, for some people, if your level is already like upper intermediate level, probably you can do this webinar and then you'll be fine. But for most people, it's like anything, it takes time to build up these skills. Yeah. So this may not be the answer that you want, but it's a process. But if you write the way that you spoke to me just now, I think that you pretty much are getting there. Like you should be on track. I don't know if that answers. I just wanted to say something else. I saw the question come up again about contractions. In the essay, please don't use don't, won't, isn't. Don't do that in the essay. It's okay in general task 1 informal letter. Yeah, but in the essay, write it out. Is not, do not, will not. Okay.
Thank you, Jackie.
Sure.
Okay, now can we have Christelle Ren Bakalia? Hi, Christelle. Please unmute your mic.
This one is for Lilette, but I also have a question for Jacqueline. For Lilette, may I ask if, because a while ago it was asked already before speaking, but what I'm asking is if there's going to be a break between the listening, the writing, the reading, yeah.
So you are saying after listening, break, and then reading, break, and then writing, break. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Unfortunately, as I've mentioned, there's no such thing as break in between. You can have a toilet break during the reading test. So when we say reading test, that is the time when there is announcement, you may begin your reading test. So that means the moment the time clock or the clock begins 60 counting, the timer starts from 60, then that's the only time you can go for toilet break. Same for writing. So during the listening test is strictly no toilet break. In between, when we say in between, where during the instruction, while the instructions are being given, that means between listening and reading or before the start of reading, no toilet break allowed. And also during the last 10 minutes of reading and writing component. So that means in between 60 minutes up to 10 minutes before the end, or I will say, is it 10 minutes or 11 minutes before the end of the test, then that's the only time you can have a toilet break during the reading and the writing component.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. For Jacqueline, my question is about the grammar. So, there's always been a confusion between like the present tense, the past tense, like linking together with the sight words like is or the, something like that. So how can we avoid making mistakes?
So grammar is tricky. So if you think that you're not very confident with your grammar, first thing, like I said before, is to write an essay and show someone who has really excellent grammar and get them to point out where you're making mistakes. So you start to learn what you're not doing correctly. That's the first thing. Then how do you fix that? So you might need to go online and find some materials that are about grammar for that particular point. Like if you make mistakes with your tenses, then there are lots of resources online that can help you, not to do with IELTS, but just to improve your tenses so you understand why you're using them incorrectly. Yeah, so I think the first thing is to do some diagnostics and find out, what is it with your grammar? And then you can address that particular issue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No. Thanks, Crystal. So now can we have Zulaika Nurjana?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. First of all, so actually maybe I can introduce myself first. I'm from Indonesia. So before 2 years ago, I already have an IELTS test with the overall score is 7, but I have a bad score for writing. So did you have some suggestion for me? Because I have the next test is within next week.
Are you asking? So, okay. So giving yourself very long. So similarly, I would maybe I don't know if you've been doing any work, if you've been doing any practice, if you've already been doing practice or not. I mean, hopefully you got some tips from this workshop, and maybe you're a bit more aware of maybe where you're going wrong. So some people, if you're going wrong because you weren't answering the question, or you didn't think of enough ideas, or your structure wasn't very good, then a lot of those things you can fix quickly. Yeah, just by staying on the topic, by brainstorming, by having a nice, clear structure. If your problems are more with grammar and vocab, that's kind of usually takes a bit longer to fix, and you need to also work out what those mistakes are. Yeah, so it's hard for me to know where you would go unless you're already aware of where your problems are. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it also depends what band score you need. Did you say you need 7?
No, they need 6.5.
Okay, so yeah, so and it also so it depends how far off you were, like what you got last time and what you need now too.
Yes,
so
okay. I'll try my best. Yeah.
Yeah, if you got 6 last time, then you're not far off. So maybe it was just the problem that you weren't answering the question properly, or that you weren't structuring it well, or maybe you didn't write enough words. You have to reach your minimum. Yeah.
I got 5.5.
Yeah, so 5.5. Yeah, so it's hard to know. So if there's someone you can write a model for and show it to them, then maybe they can help you work out.
Okay, I think that's great. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next we have Ryan Royston Rebellia.
Yes,
Ryan.
good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So thank you again for Ma'am Jacqueline for the presentation. It really helps. My question is, in terms of available resources, apart from prior tests, do you have any suggestions for good resources specifically for academic tests? Because I want to get a high band score.
Sure. So as we just mentioned, if you've registered with IDP, there's the Ielts Essentials materials. So there are lots of practice materials there. You can also visit the official IELTS site, ielts.org, and there are like lots of resources and materials there as well. There's also a new website that I discovered called weloveielts.org, which is created by Cambridge, one of the owners of the IELTS. So that's a good one to look at.
All right.
And the IDP website itself actually has quite a lot of resources there to help you, apart from practice tests, which of course are very good to do, but there are other kind of practice tips and videos and those kinds of things as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Now we have Trisha Tongakan. Hi, Trisha.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say I wasn't able to finish the essay. Would that greatly impact my band score?
Okay, so it would depend on your words. So if you didn't write enough, that would pull your score down. It would also depend how much you'd answered the question. So if you hadn't covered, like for example, you had to talk about, problems and solutions, and you only talked about problems and you didn't talk about solutions, that would affect the score. But if you just didn't cover, maybe you only talked about 2 solutions and not 3, then maybe it wouldn't make that much of a difference. It's important to be with the timing. Before you do your test, ideally you do some practices at home timed. So you get used to doing your task 1 and your task 2 within the hour.
Okay.
That's the best idea. Sure.
Thank you, Trisha. And next, Lara Bumi Sakti. Hi, Lara.
Hello. Thank you. Can you listen to me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to ask the questions about grammar in writing, actually, because I just want to ask, is it similar like the sentence that we use on speaking? Is it similar for writing as well? And I heard that you explained about to get more knowledge about how to paraphrase the sentence, and then collocations, and then what else? Can you give the tips like the conclusions, what we should learn to improve our academic writings? And the last one, is there any bands for 9? Thank you.
Okay. You have to remind me. Sorry. Okay. So band 9, the last model that I showed you. Remember, we looked at the one about drawbacks, benefits, and drawbacks of studying overseas. That essay is pretty much a band 9 at that kind of level. But very few people need band 9 for writing, unless you want to be an IELTS writing examiner. Very rare that you would need band 9 for writing. Okay, so that's the first one. So what was the first question? I'm so sorry, I forgot.
It's about the grammar. So what is your tips and tricks?
Grammar.
Like first paraphrase, and then collocation, and then what else? So then I can learn. And also the recommendation of the book that we should read or buy for writing. Thank you.
So grammar is not a quick fix. grammar is not just one thing also. So remember at the very start, I said that the key with your IELTS writing is it's natural and flexible. So sometimes people think, oh, I need to have 10 complex sentences. Oh, I need to use like lots of relative clauses. It's not like that. It's more important that you write in a very natural, flexible way and you show the examiner that you can make different kinds of sentences naturally. Okay, so trying to force different types of grammatical structures into your writing is not the best way to do it. So how do you improve your grammar? A lot of that, there are many ways to go at it. One of them is, sorry, I think can you hear me? I think my microphone.
Yes, I can listen.
I think my microphone just came out. One of the ways to do that is to, there are many different ways. So, of course, you can work on your grammar. So there are many kinds of resources online. If you just look for grammar practice, grammar exercises online. Another way is to read very widely, things that are written with good grammar in English. Even the newspaper, BBC website, those kinds of things. Also to look at model essays. There are many model essays on IELTS.org or the IDP website. So you can start to see good sentence structure. So with grammar, you have to work at it from many different angles. And the IELTS essay is not marked by the examiner counting how many complex clauses. It's a balance of many different things. So don't get too obsessed with that. Now the other question about, I've forgotten the other question as well. The questions you ask are really good, but they're very broad. So it's not, unfortunately, as I said before with IELTS, it's not like instant coffee. I can't just tell you do this and then it's fixed. It takes time and it takes a lot of interest and curiosity to really want to understand and change. In terms of books, if you go to the Cambridge website, so Cambridge is one of the owners of the IELTS. There are many Cambridge IELTS preparation books. So you will find those on the Cambridge website and they're very helpful. There's a huge range of them. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
But I just wanted to say too, if you think about how long it took you to learn your first language until you were fluent, you started probably speaking when you were 2 or, and then you weren't really fluent until you were maybe 15 or maybe 12, right? That's quite a lot of years. So English is the same. It's not instant. And then if we don't practice and use it all the time, it does. Unfortunately, I know that's not a popular answer, but that's really the truth. Like they say in IELTS, to move up a band, it takes thousands of hours of practice.
Yeah. I will read BBC every day now. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think people who do well in their IELTS, they do well because they're very curious and interested in English. They're the people who do best.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, thanks for your great questions too.
Thank you, Lara. And then now, let's go into Tran.
Yes. I want to ask with task 1, will it affect my band score or will it better for me to, like, instead of just describe the numbers, just write down the numbers, like I use different way to describe the number, like a half, a third, is that will make it better?
That's a good thing to do because it shows you have a different range of vocabulary. But you've got to be careful that you say, like, it dropped by half, but you've got to say from what? Do you remember in that example, it was just over a quarter and it dropped by half. So we know, it was like just over 20 or just under a quarter. So we know it was, around 25% and it dropped by half. So just make sure that you say what the original number was. Yeah, if you just said it dropped by half, then we don't know what the first number was. Just make sure
Thank
it's
you.
clear. But yes, it is good to say, half, it dropped by a third. I mean, if you're good at maths, if you're very bad at maths, you don't have to do that.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for your question.
Next, Kate Suarez.
Hello, it's a general question. Can you hear me well?
Yes, loud and clear.
So, I just wanted to ask if I will be going to take a computer delivered test, and then during the exam I encountered like a technical issues. Does IDP can do necessary adjustments, like for the time, or if I can retake for that particular exam? How can you deal with those kinds of issues?
All right, I think I will answer that, Jackie. For any technical issue during the computer delivered test, definitely our team will assist you right away. So there's no issue about the timing because our team can actually pause your computer from where you are. So the moment it's back, if there's any technical issue and you're back on track, then that means you will begin from where exactly you left off.
Okay.
Yep.
It's clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now can we have Lenny Ranti, please?
Yeah, thank you. I'm from Indonesia. Well, I have taken IELTS exam before and I got 7 for overall score, but 6 for writing, which I need 6.5 at least for my writing to enroll for master degree. I have friends who helped me review my writing, and he said that my problem is in using complex sentences. Maybe do you have some tips? How can I practice in order to improve in using complex sentences?
Yeah, okay. So what you could do is one way to do it is you can look for a grammar book. So some people ask for grammar books. One of the most famous ones is Murphy, English Grammar in Use. So that is a good grammar book. But if you just want to look online, we have a million things online. So you can just go to Google and you can type complex sentence practice for IELTS. Then I'm sure you'll find many practice exercises there to help you. Yeah, so that's a sort of a quicker way to do it. But if you want a grammar book, then Murphy, English Grammar in Use, is a good one to practice those different parts of grammar. So it may not be under complex sentences, but what they mean by complex sentences in IELTS are things like conditionals. So if sentences, if I do well in my IELTS, I will go to Canada. That's considered complex for IELTS. Like we mentioned before, modal verbs, would, could, should, might, may, or even more complex, would have, could have, might have. So you can find practice exercises for those as well. Then also things like using things like although, while, whereas. So you make a subordinate clause. So, like the example I gave before, although Singapore tends to be very hot, it's a wonderful place to live. That's considered complex. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. I think this is the last one, Jackie. Christelle.
Hi. Sorry, it's me again. Because there are like sentences that we think that it's wrong, but actually it's right. So how do we know if it's correct? Because, we have those kind of moments.
Yeah, so you won't know in the test, right? Because you don't get to see your paper marked. And it's not about one sentence. So it's not like you have one sentence with a grammar mistake and suddenly you become band 7. So in terms of like not knowing whether it's right or wrong, it's very hard for me. What you might want to do is, if you're really very curious about this, is book 1 or 2 sessions with a tutor. Yeah. And then all these questions that you have about your grammar, you can just bring them to someone who's like an English teacher and they can let you know, then you'll know. That might be the best way to deal with it. And I think on the IDP website, they have some links to different kind of IELTS tuition centers that can help you that are affiliated with IDP. So that might be an idea you could consider if there's certain things you just don't know if it's right or wrong, because it's hard to do it by yourself sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, are you still okay with one more question?
Sure. No worries.
Thank you. So can we have Sayan?
Hello. So the most basic question ever, but I have just learned that there, through this workshop, that there are two types of IELTS exam, the general and the academic one. What would be the sensible option for me who plans to enroll in an international English high school?
So what you need to do is that I would probably think it's going to be academic because it's for study. Like the academic test was designed to assess English for study, but you need to check with that school because it really depends on the institution. So ask the school which test they want you to do and what band score they want you to get. Yeah, because they might say general, and if they do say general, that's great because general's a bit easier.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Yep, I think that's all. Jackie, any last words for our participants today?
Thank you very much, everybody, for your great questions and your enthusiasm and your interest. And I know we've gone quite long, and thanks for staying with us this evening. I just wish you all the very best on your IELTS journey. And I really appreciate spending this time with you. And I hope some of the things I've shared have helped you and feel a bit clearer about doing your test. It does take practice, like everything. I do wish you all the very best. I want to thank a wonderful team, as usual, who answered so many of your questions. They're very much experts, as much as I am. So thank you so much to everybody on the panel as well. And you particularly, Lilette.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everybody. Keep safe. Watch out for the Omicron.
Yep. So that's all for tonight, everyone. And thank you so much for staying with us for I guess 2.5 hours now. You are all so awesome. And for those who can stay with us, I will play some videos. So as I've shared earlier, bonus for those who will be taking their computer-delivered IELTS test or for those who are still undecided. So this is your opportunity to see and learn something about computer-delivered IELTS test. And once again, thank you so much, Jackie, for your time as always. And for my co-moderator, my co-host tonight, you are all wonderful. Thank you so much. We have answered more than 100 questions in the chat box. Patrick from Philippines, Marisa from Indonesia, Wei from Myanmar, and New from Thailand. You are all great. Thank you so much. So now I'll share my screen. So please stay with us and enjoy. Thank you.
To our computer-delivered IELTS Tutorial 1. This tutorial will show you how to complete and prepare for computer-delivered IELTS. For each section, there's a clock at the top of the screen, which tells you how much time you have left. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. The instructions for each part are in the box at the top of the screen. You can use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen to move from one question to the next. Click on the number to go to that question. You can also click on the forward arrow to go to the next question, or the back arrow to go to the previous question. When you have answered the question, a line will appear under that question in the navigation bar. You can click on Review if you want to look at the question again later. The question number will be shown as a circle. You can review and change your answers at any time until the end of the test. Click on the yellow arrow if you want to make the navigation bar smaller. You can use the scroll bar to see all the questions. In each of the tests, you can change the screen settings. To do this, click on the Settings tab at the top of the screen. You can change the size and colour of the text. In each of the tests, there is a Help tab. If you click on the Help tab, this will give you information about the task you are currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. If you need to leave the test room for a few minutes, you can hide your screen by clicking on the Hide tab. When you return to the test room, click on the Resume Test button. That is the end of the introduction tutorial for computer-delivered IELTS. Check out the IDP IELTS YouTube channel for tutorial videos for listening, reading and writing. For the listening test, you can change the volume by using the volume bar in the top right at any time during the test. For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. In the listening test, listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right screen. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose which diagram label, A, B, C, etc., is correct for which item listed in the table. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you will have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. In the reading test, the text appears on the left and the questions on the right. To see all the text and the questions, you'll need to use both scroll bars. some questions, you need to choose an answer. If you want to change your answer, click on a new answer. If you want to leave a question unanswered, click on the answer again. To look at the next question, just click on the question itself. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. If you want to change any of your answers, click on the answer you want to change and then click on your new answer. If you want to leave any of the questions unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to choose which paragraph or section contains the information listed in the table. Remember to scroll to read all the text. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. If you want to change an answer, click on your new answer. If you want to leave the question unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to click on a heading for a paragraph or section and move it into the gap. If you want to change your answer, move another heading into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the heading back. And for some questions, you need to write your answer on a gap in a diagram. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. To do this, left-click and drag your cursor over the section of text or question you wish to highlight. Then right-click and select the highlight option. To remove highlighting from the text, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. If you wish to remove all highlighting from the screen, right-click on a highlighted area and select Clear All. You can also make notes on a section of text. To do this, left-click and drag the cursor over the section of text or question you want to make notes about. Then right-click and select the Notes option. Your chosen section of text will be highlighted and a yellow notepad will appear. You can write your notes on this. Click on the cross in the notepad to hide your notes. To see your notes again, click on the highlighted section of text. If you want to see which areas of highlighted text have notes, move the cursor slowly over each area of highlighted text. If a small orange box appears, it means that the highlighted text contains notes. To remove notes from text or questions, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. There are two parts to the writing test, Part 1 and Part 2. You can answer the parts in either order. You write your answer in the space on the right of the screen. Your answers are saved automatically. You do not need to press Enter on your keyboard. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left.
Right, thanks again, everyone. and best wishes and stay safe.